it's our 9:03 call to order of the regular meeting of the Calaveras County Planning Commission, and we'll get started with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any staff announcements or agenda changes?
We have no announcements and no agenda changes.
All right. I see no members of the public here. Has anybody reserved a spot to speak to us online?
Yes, but it pertains to one of the projects.
I mean, for just general public comment.
No.
Okay, then we will open the general public comment period and close the general public comment period and get started with the consent agenda, which is just the approval of the minutes from October 14th. Is there any member of the commission or public who have any
Yes, I do
corrections?
on item number 1, the greenhouse gas emissions. I think this minute was written when we were going to be accepting or not accepting it. I think we need to change it so that it reflects the informational nature of the meeting. So the second sentence, I think, should be amended so that this presentation by Sierra Business Council and other consultants provided information regarding establishment of, then cross out phase 1 of the project, recommending the Planning Commission accept, and cut back in on the greenhouse gas emissions inventory.
Well, but that's, the way it's reflected here was the way the agenda was written.
Yes.
And what this is
Yeah.
doing is telling us what the agenda was, and then the informational part is covered on page 1 under agenda changes and announcements.
Well, I thought the minutes were to reflect the actions that were going to be taken. So if this is what it was in the proposed meeting agenda,
And I think that's what this is referring to.
well, the break under, let's see, page 2, I agree with you, where it says regular agenda, number 1, greenhouse gas emissions. What I'm talking about is is on page 4, when we're going through what actually happened at the meeting. And by that time, it was changed to an informational session, and I think my amendments are appropriate. Otherwise, there's no action taken, and yet this is indicating that there was going to be action taken. We don't have, oh yeah, we have staff and consultant, okay. Anyhow, that's my suggestion. By the time it was presented to us in the agenda, it was an informational item.
Well, this is not a earth-shaking
No, it isn't.
issue here.
Yeah.
But what the reference on page 4, it says this presentation by Sierra Business Council is phase 1 of the project,
Yeah.
recommending the Planning Commission accept the greenhouse gas emissions inventory as a baseline, et cetera. And that correctly describes what the whole project is, and that's what it's referring to. So I think I'm okay with it the way it is, but
I am
Majority
too.
rules.
It's not saying we need to adopt any kind of document.
Well, it indicates
just
that
says
they're-
accept.
It indicates that they are, at this point, recommending the Planning Commission accept, and we weren't doing that. I agree, it's no big thing. I don't know. Commissioner
There she is.
Henderson?
Julie, do you care?
So first of all, I just wanted to point out that I was on Zoom, and I don't know if this is just because I'm a panelist, but I was unable to hear you guys from my office, so I came over. So I'm not sure if that audio issue is affecting what the public can see if they're not on as a panelist. I just wanted to point that out. Second of all, it sounds like what you're talking about is whether we need to formally adopt the,
No.
No, I'm
we're
just talking about the minutes themselves. When it, on the agenda, it was presented to us as something that we were going to take action on.
That we're going to accept.
oh, and, and we should.
I only have my
copy. It was supposed to have been changed to an informational item. So we did not take action. Where are we? Right here.
But
Right,
I'm
that's not even the issue. He just
I'm
wants
talking
to
on page-
rewrite the description.
Oh,
on page 4, I was just saying,
Minutes on the back reflect what happened.
And are you asking for some language?
yeah.
Okay.
Let me just, since we, I don't know if this is any importance. For the greenhouse gas emissions entry on page 4, I'm suggesting that the second sentence be changed to this presentation by Sierra Business Council and other consultants, which I think is important because it was several consultants, provided information regarding establishment of the greenhouse gas emissions inventory.
I think that's fine.
I do too.
I don't think we want to lose is phase 1 of the project.
Okay? Okay,
Because we are,
information.
yeah, I think it's fine to reword it so that we're not accepting anything at this point, but ultimately we are going to be accepting something.
Yeah, sure.
Is there a reason why the second sentence couldn't stay in there and have the first sentence be what you just read? Sorry, I walked into a conversation.
Yeah,
It's certainly
yeah.
up to you.
Well, I think the
I
first
just didn't-
sentence is fine.
I just felt that gave the impression that we were being
Yeah,
presented
Ron
with
can't see visually
with a
either.
proposal to accept it,
Now,
which
there's
we
kind
were
of-
originally.
We are proposing to adopt emission standards as part of phase 2.
Sure.
Right.
So can we-
But they were providing information regarding the establishment of the greenhouse gas emissions inventory as the baseline.
Just wants it to be that the presentation by Sierra Business Council and other consultants provided information
I think he
as
just doesn't want.
phase 1 of a project,
Fine.
which will result in the development of the greenhouse gas emissions reduction plans.
Yeah, I think Tim just doesn't want to get
Yeah.
everyone confused thinking that we're taking action.
Exactly.
Your version's fine with me.
Or could we make it really simple, this presentation
This was informational only.
is phase 1 of a project that will, yeah, we just need to tell somebody how to reword it.
Well, I think what you were saying, provided
Yeah.
information regarding phase 1 of the project
Yeah,
of the greenhouse gas emissions reduction plan. I mean, you have to move things around a bit. My
Right.
suggestion, I thought, was
Informational, no action was taken.
did what we were doing. We were providing information regarding the establishment of the greenhouse gas inventory as the baseline for development of GHG
Right.
emissions reduction plans. That's what we were doing.
What about instead of saying recommending the planning commission accept this presentation by Sierra Business Council is phase 1 of the project presented to and was, sorry.
I think we need to say this presentation by Sierra Business Council and others provided information on the baseline
That's what I
for
was saying.
development of the greenhouse gas emissions reduction plans for Calaveras County,
That's what I was
which
saying.
is phase one of blah, blah, blah.
Of the
I don't know,
project.
yeah, we just need to get the word accept out of there. So they're not recommending anything at this, or they're recommending that the greenhouse gas emissions inventory be used, but we're not taking action.
The Sierra Business Council presented phase one of the project, introducing the greenhouse gas emissions inventory.
Which will become the baseline for development of,
Yeah.
there you go.
Perfect.
fine.
Thank you,
It
Julie.
took me a while to-
So can you give me that language? Did you write it down?
I'm gonna let Julie do it. Wow.
I'll
We're having a hard time
after
getting
the meeting.
That was so strenuous, I have to take off my fleece.
Are you gonna read that to her, Julie?
Sure,
Okay.
sorry. I didn't-
No, just give it to me after the
Okay,
meeting.
that's what I
Okay.
figured, okay.
Is everyone comfortable with that?
I'm comfortable. with it.
Okay. Would
Well-
someone like to make a motion?
I've come up with an issue on the first sentence here too.
Okay.
Because it says Calaveras County is proposing to adopt baseline emission standards in order to come into compliance with the California Global Warming Solutions Act and a successor bill. And that implies
Yeah.
that there's a mandate that we have to come into compliance with, and it became clear at the last meeting that there aren't any such.
I'd say to become consistent with. How's that?
That's
No,
better.
I think we do have to come into compliance with those bills. It's just what exactly will constitute compliance isn't entirely clear. Is that correct, Gina and Julie?
You know, I hate to say this, but I didn't review my file in preparation for this because it wasn't on the agenda. I know that there was some confusion about what counties are mandated to do.
Right.
And I don't remember, as I sit here, exactly
So
what's right.
Well,
what if we
I think
just
if we-
changed it to say Calaveras County is proposing to
Adopt-
develop a greenhouse gas emissions reduction plan in order to come into compliance with the California Global Warming Solutions Act? Because adopting baseline emissions isn't going to bring us into compliance.
Right.
It's
Sorry.
the
It's
coming into
okay.
compliance.
As long as I have language, I don't mind changing.
We are a planning commission that can,
No, but I agree with Commissioner Wooster that, you know, at least according to the consultants, there's no explicit requirement that we comply, but we've adopted a general plan that wants us to be consistent with. I think that's, and, you know, a baseline emission standards is a broad enough thing to, I think, encompass what we're trying to do.
but we're not adopting baseline emission standards to comply with the act and the bill. We are adopting baseline emission standards in order to develop an emissions reduction plan
Yeah.
in compliance with those, that act and that bill.
Yeah, I agree, you can use GHG emissions reduction plan. It's proposing to adopt a GHG emissions reduction plan in order to be consistent with the California Global Warming Solutions Act.
I would think the phrase "adopt baseline emission standards" is broad enough to encompass both the inventory and the reduction plan.
I agree.
Baseline emission standards don't have anything to, they are just the background information for the reduction plan.
Unless you,
There it
well,
goes. What did you get?
How about in
They're
conformance?
baseline. That's what I was just going to say. What if we just said we're going to conform to the requirements?
Conform with.
Okay, why don't you just strike the word baseline?
Right.
hey,
Yes, that's a very good suggestion.
less is more.
Calaveras County is proposing to adopt emission standards
That's
in
great.
order to be consistent with the global, that, I think, solves my problem, too.
Yeah, I think
That's good.
be consistent with or in conformance with.
He went down and you went there too, right?
Well, the whole point was to get a baseline so that we could.
Exactly.
But I think the first
Right.
sentence,
Plan,
the
Right.
first sentence was to be in the all-encompassing goal, I think. Anyhow,
Does anybody else have anything else that they would like to recommend for the
I like what Commissioner Wooster just said.
I think what this reference, what this sentence is really referring to is the general plan language. And I think the general plan language in its implementation measure uses the word consistent with.
That would be reasonable. That's fine.
What would be that sentence, so I can write it down first?
Calaveras County is proposing to adopt emission standards in order to be consistent with the California Global Solutions, et cetera.
Commissioners, I would just like to remind you, it's very hard for someone on Zoom to hear with the masks on, especially when your microphone is far away from you. If you could push them up to you, that would be a lot better. Thank you.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We'd really love to lose the mask so people could actually hear us. But not yet. Okay. I'm open to a motion on this item.
I move to we adopt the meetings as amended.
second.
Oh, I've got one more thing, I'm sorry. Roger is misspelled on page 2. Applicant discussion, Roger Allen applicant. There's an extra D in there.
Actually, that is the
Yeah.
correct spelling.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Where
It
it
was
was missed?
spelled incorrectly on the staff report.
Yeah, okay, that's what I was referring to. Okay, great. Then we're dandy.
So we have a motion, a second, and some further discussion. All in favor? Aye. Passes 4-0 with Commissioner Parker absent. Thank you, everybody. Let's move on to our first item on the regular agenda, 2021-014 APC 381 and zoning amendment for Harold and Geraldine Hattler et al. And Gina.
That would be me. So Harold, Geraldine, and James Hattler applied to the County Ag Commissioner's Office for California Land Conservation Contract 381, proposing to put 707.13 acres of land into the preserve. That land consists of 3 assessor parcel numbers located approximately 6.5 miles southeast of the town of Milton and south of the Salt Springs Reservoir. In addition, the owners own an adjacent 800-plus acres, some of which is in the preserve, some of which is not. Utilizing this land as one ranch for cattle grazing, they've been conducting agriculture on these properties for the better part of 60 years. Improvements such as corrals and developed water systems are shared across the entire ranch. Specific improvements on the subject property include perimeter fencing only. Currently, the ranch is leased by Rex Whittle,
who runs approximately 85 head of beef cattle. He has reported $10,200 of gross annual income from his production. There was a feasibility study conducted by Scott Oneto, which is our Calaveras County Farm Advisor. His findings were that the land is capable of producing an annual income of $29.70 per acre, far exceeding the minimum $2,000 required in order to maintain the preserve. Under the general plan designates this property as resource production, identifying lands capable and primarily used for agricultural operations. This category includes lands for conservation easements, critical habitat areas, including agriculture and timber preserves. Upon establishment of California Land Conservation Contract, all the properties encumbered must be zoned AP, signifying the Williamson Act. The agriculture preserve zoning applies to lands, obviously, which are under the Williamson Act contract. The land is located in a high as well as a very high fire hazard part of the county. And the California Natural Diversity Database identifies up to 5 different protected birds, plants, and animal species within a 5-mile radius of the property. This area of the county is also identified as having 0 to low groundwater potential. However, there are several springs on the ranch, and the ranch is traversed by Hoods Creek and a tributary to Hoods Creek, all providing seasonal water source. The applicants have noted that the springs on the property are generally reliable, but they have also noted that in drought years, they have been required to haul water to their cattle. During a publicly noticed meeting on August 21st, your appointed Agriculture Advisory Committee voted 5-0, recommending the Board of Supervisors establish this preserve. In conclusion, we find that the application is consistent with County General Plan and applicable provisions of the County Zoning Code, goals, policies of the resource production element, and the general plan encourages participation in the California Land Conservation Act of 1965. Policies of the conservation and the open space element encourage the preservation of open space for the protection of wildlife habitat as well as agricultural land. Maintaining the land in open space will protect wildlife habitat. Maintaining land in agriculture will reduce flammable vegetation, thus reducing the risk of wildfire. I'm burning up. The parcels meet the minimum, sorry, it's a little hard. The parcels do meet the minimum 100-acre requirement to establish a preserve, and their annual income from production exceeds the minimum $2,000 requirement in order to maintain the preserve. The application is supported by your Agriculture Commissioner as well as the Agricultural Advisory Committee. The open space contracts and easements are categorically exempt from CEQA, therefore we have prepared a notice of exemption. And as a result, staff recommends approval of Ag Preserve Contract 381 and the amendment of the zoning of all 3 parcels from General Ag to Ag Preserve. Any questions?
Will we be hearing from the applicant?
Probably not.
Okay, then let me ask you the question.
Okay.
I didn't understand the last exhibit on the attachment, the application, which was attachment 2. It's the one with the blue and green figures. I don't understand, and it looks as if maybe we don't have all of that attachment. I don't understand what it was showing us. It's just way back at the back of the, right before the Agriculture Advisory Committee.
All the way to the end, the one with the little,
It's.
I'm not
showing-
sure what the little teardrops, the numbered teardrops represent. Subject properties include.
I think those are.
Oh,
I
okay,
think
I know
it's
what this,
just
I know what
within
this
the
is.
noticing,
So the
right?
application itself requires that the that the applicant provide the county with all the names and addresses of everybody within 300 feet of the subject property. We don't need that from them anymore because we have the capability of doing that ourselves.
Yeah.
And so I think this was a map that they included with that list. I pulled out the list, didn't realize that this map was an illustration of the list of people, so.
Yeah,
Probably,
okay.
that's why it doesn't make any sense. You're right, something's missing. But
Okay.
it's not pertinent.
That's reassuring.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I want to say that Gina's been doing these for so long. You have this down to really a science. They are so complete and so easy to understand.
And she doesn't slip in the names of previous applicants by mistake either.
Yes. So any questions for Gina? Any member of the public that would like to speak to this item?
No.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Cut and dry.
I think we're,
I have a suggestion on the resolution, but,
let's go ahead and hear it.
okay, page 2 of the resolution, proposed resolution. Number 2 and number 3 only talks about zoning amendment. Shouldn't we be also be mentioning the contract establishment? I thought we were being presented with both the contract establishment and the zoning amendment.
You mean under the findings?
Under, the findings.
Is it true
Well-
that only that it goes to the board? for
Right,
contract?
so,
Yes.
so consideration, I mean, we
right.
roll these kind of as a package, obviously, but the zoning amendment, in the old days, used to follow the establishment of the contract, but the establishment of the Williams-Knapp contract only requires a board action, so if there was not a zoning amendment component to this, it would not come before you.
So the only thing
And so the only thing you're really doing is finding consistency in relation to the zoning itself, which obviously reflects in the contract. But the contract itself is not really
something we're
technically
acting on.
part of your consideration. Like I said, because it is kind of a package deal, they're rolled together. But in this case, that's why there's no specific findings for the contract
Yeah,
itself.
and do you think there's any need to say something about condition on the acceptance of the?
We
contract
haven't in the past.
Okay,
If you want to suggest that we amend the resolution to include that for future resolutions, then we can certainly do that. It's up to you.
because the actual zoning amendment, if the board passed a zoning amendment right now, it wouldn't,
So technically, they
Wouldn't
have
take
to
effect.
vote to establish the contract.
Yeah.
Upon establishing the contract, then they can
I
obviously
don't have
vote
a
to
major-
amend the zoning. I know, it's a little backwards.
Yeah.
In the old days, there's probably a reason why they used to do it the way we did it prior to, the ag commissioner would come forth to the board with a whole list of ag preserves for the year, and they would vote on each one of them all at once. And then at the end of the year, the ag commissioner would provide a list of those contracts, parcels going in contract and out of contract to the planning department, and we would do this mass zoning all at once.
And this is why it's important to have a planning director who knows the history of the town. So I don't feel strongly about the question I'm raising. Anybody else?
Okay.
I think it's fine.
Okay.
We're ready?
Yeah.
Would someone like to make a
Are you-
motion?
I move we approve the resolution as drafted.
I second it.
All in favor? Aye. Passes with 4 and Commissioner Parker absent. Item 2 of our regular agenda, 2006-062, extension of time for Peter Vermeulen?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Sorry for mangling your name. Madeline,
Good morning.
good morning.
Can you all hear me with my mask on? Is it all right? Okay. So this is a request for a 2-year extension of time from Peter Vermeulen to extend the expiration date of approved tentative parcel map 2006-062. The subject property, APN 064-021-035, is 50 acres in size and is located at 5858 Highway 49 in Angels Camp. The Calaveras County Planning Commission approved tentative parcel map 2006-062 on February 28, 2019, which proposed to divide the 50-acre parcel in two, one parcel at 25.17 acres and one at 24.83 acres in size. The initial approval in 2019 was for 36 months to complete the conditions of approval necessary to record the map, setting the expiration date at February 28, 2022. As the map is nearing expiration and all the conditions necessary to record the map have not been completed, the applicant has filed a request for a discretionary extension of time, which was submitted to us on August 27, 2021, to extend the expiration of the map by an additional 2 years. An extension must be approved in order for the map to remain active and eligible for recordation. Progress towards recordation of the map has been delayed because of the applicant's inability to complete a road maintenance agreement with the adjacent landowners, as those parcels have been recently sold. In addition, the COVID-19 pandemic has significantly impacted and delayed their engineers' workload, and final plans cannot start until the end of this year. Calaveras County Code Section 1608040 established provisions for the extension of an approved tentative parcel map. Pursuant to Part A of this section, upon application of the subdivider filed prior to the expiration date of the approved or conditionally approved tentative map, the time at which the map expires may be extended by the Planning Commission for a period or periods not exceeding a total of 5 years. While Part A of this section does not expressly require the Planning Commission to make any specific findings in order to approve a discretionary extension for a tentative parcel map, the county has consistently applied the standard in Part B of that section for tentative subdivision map extensions when considering requests for discretionary extensions of parcel maps in order to remain consistent, which requires a demonstration of a good faith effort to support approval of an extension. A discretionary extension of time for a period not to exceed a total of 6 years on top of the initial 36 months may be granted by the Planning Commission upon holding a properly noticed public hearing. Staff is aware that existing code section 1608040 states that only 5 years of this discretionary extensions may be granted, but has been advised that this provision of our ordinance is preempted by the Subdivision Map Act, which requires that a full 6 years of discretionary extensions be offered. Conditions of approval for tentative parcel map 2006-062 are set forth in the Planning Commission Resolution number 2019-008, which can be found in attachment 2 of the packet. Among these are improvement of roadways, Caltrans encroachment permit, and demonstrations that each parcel has adequate water supply and is able to meet the requirements for on-site waste disposal. The applicant has hired an engineer to prepare improvement plans for the on-site road system and design the highway road encroachment. The map was approved on February 28, 2019, which was, of course, before the adoption of the 2019 General Plan update. Under County Code Section 1607030, all tentative maps are deemed to be vested tentative maps within the meaning of Government Code Section 66498.1, which entitles a developer to proceed toward a final map so long as the map is in substantial compliance with the ordinances, policies, and standards that the county had in place when the original map was approved. While some counties treat requests for discretionary extensions as if they were map modifications expressly requiring compliance with current land use standards before granting, Calaveras County has no such ordinance and is one of the counties that instead treats discretionary time extensions to record unmodified maps as part of the normal progression of the originally approved project toward the final map. Thus, when a developer timely files a request for a discretionary extension of time to record an unmodified tentative map, the extension can be granted without a requirement for the map to be consistent with the current general plan. It need only have been consistent with the general plan and land use standards in place at the time it was approved. The general plan land use designation at the time of the map approval was natural resource lands, which allowed for a 20-acre minimum parcel size in the A1 zone. The subject parcel is zoned A1, therefore the map was consistent with the 1996 general plan. But with the adoption of the 2019 general plan, the parcel's land use designation has changed to resource production, requiring a 40-acre parcel size. As the map is creating parcels approximately 25 acres in size, it is not consistent with the current general plan land use designation, but is consistent with the general plan in place at the time the vested rights accrued. The 20-acre minimum allowed in the natural resource lands land use designation still applies. Therefore, the two 25-acre parcels, which will be created at the time of the final map recordation, will be considered legal nonconforming. An initial study and mitigated negative declaration was prepared for the original approval of the tentative parcel map and adopted by the Planning Commission on February 28, 2019, concurrently with the map approval. The project has not changed, therefore the mitigated negative declaration is still adequate. This extension of time request has been routed to all responsible agencies and none had any objections or concerns. So in conclusion, while there's no specific finding required to be made by the Planning Commission in order to grant an extension of time for tentative parcel map 2006-062, it is staff's opinion that the applicant has demonstrated a good faith effort to meet the conditions of approval. Progress towards recordation of the map has been delayed because of a pending road maintenance agreement with the adjacent landowners, and the engineer's workload has been significantly impacted and delayed by the COVID-19 pandemic. And I believe the applicant's, the agent for processing has joined us today via Zoom, is Ron Kopp, if you have any additional questions.
I'd just like to state that we have come to expect staff reports of this quality, but don't think that we take them for granted. I appreciate it.
Does anybody have any questions for Madeline?
No.
How about for Mr. Kopp?
I just have a couple of comments. I think your staff, Madeline, did an excellent job of presenting it. My name is Ron Kopf, and I am representing Peter Vermeulen this morning. This is a very similar action as what I sat through on your hearing on October 14th, where we reviewed a similar extension of time for Sherry Scheiblich. As was pointed out, there's a number of issues that have delayed the ability to move forward. However, Peter Vermeulen is very anxious to get going and is working with his neighbors and everything on the maintenance agreement. Also wanted to point out that there are no requested changes to the approved existing map, and with the 2-year extension, that should be adequate for him to move forward and get this approved. So thank you very much for your time, and if there's any questions, I'll be glad to try and answer them.
None for me.
None for me. Thank you very much. And we don't have any other members of the public, so we'll open and close the public comment portion of the hearing. And we are ready to hear the recommendation.
Okay.
Unless,
I have some changes to the resolution.
let's hear your suggestions.
Okay. On page 2, under finding number 2, the evidence, right in the middle, the sentence starts, staff has determined that. To my way of thinking, it's very helpful that the staff determined that, but that isn't the fact. The fact is what CEQA requires. So I would just take that language out and start the sentence, no further environmental review is required. And then on number 3, anybody down the line that is looking for a similar extension and could come to this and say, oh, he hired an engineer and that was enough to show good faith. I think we need to beef up that evidence under number 3 by providing something like applicant conducted negotiations with adjacent landowners regarding construction of a road and a road maintenance agreement, but the current sale of 2 of the adjoining properties has delayed agreement. And then a second sentence, the COVID-19 pandemic has impacted and delayed the engineer's workload, which gives more facts to the good faith effort.
I actually agree with that. I thought the same thing when I read it. A last-minute race to hire an engineer would not be sufficient.
Yeah.
I didn't feel that way. I thought,
It's well described.
it's described well, and then with what's going on today with COVID, I thought that was just,
I think it's just
I don't
to
know.
reiterate.
Well, I just think it's important that nobody looks to the hiring of the engineer as satisfying good faith.
I just don't feel strongly either way, so, but more
Okay.
information is better, I guess.
I feel stronger than you.
Commissioner Wooster, do you have any thoughts?
I agree with Commissioner Ladish's suggestions under number 3. As to number 2, it's referring to evidence. To me, it is evidentiary that staff who are experts in these matters did make that determination. To me, that's
I don't feel strongly. It just seems to me they presented the evidence to us is the way I was looking at it. Not that their presentation itself is not evidence. It's like an argument before a court is not evidence. But if you accept the argument or the presentation, then it is. I don't want to delay the meeting any further. I don't care.
I agree. I didn't have any issue with number 2. I had the same comments about item 3. So
So we're leaving 2 as is?
how does everybody else feel? I think we're good with 2. Tim doesn't feel that strongly about it.
Right.
And it seems like
And we'll beef up the number
3 of us would like to see 3 beefed up a little bit.
okay. I had a couple of
Type of,
grammatical changes on
Yeah.
page 1. On the 4th whereas clause, whereas the proposed project is located on real property in the unincorporated portions of the county of Calaveras, more particularly described APN, should be an as before the APN. And I
Yeah.
have question to the description of this being in Angels Camp, because it's actually not within the city of Angels Camp, it's outside. But I'm told that the system puts it in Angels Camp, and I noticed the previous resolution did the same thing. So I guess we'll have to let that one go. And then in the last whereas clause, information presented by the project proponent should have an and in front of it. And that's it.
Can I make one, I'm wondering if we should say unincorporated Angels Camp?
yeah.
Kind of recommending
Yeah.
we add that
Yeah.
word.
Or
Yes,
maybe
yeah.
just say located at the mailing address of,
Well, it's not.
It's
not a
mailing address.
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Yeah, I think adding the word.
Unincorporated.
Unincorporated is more.
Yeah, okay, great.
That's great.
Because as it
I
is, it's
thought-
inconsistent.
Yeah. I was trying to figure out where it was with the Angels Camp, so that's helpful.
Nice catch.
Yeah, my confusion was if it was really an Angels Camp, why are we hearing it?
So, yeah, that makes it very clear. Anything else? All right. Now, we'll hear you read the recommendation.
All right, so staff recommends the Planning Commission adopt Resolution 2021-019 as amended, approving a 2-year extension of time for approved tentative parcel map 2006-062 for Peter Vermillion, based on the findings contained therein.
And do we have a motion?
I move we adopt the motion as, resolution as amended.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
So 4 with Commissioner Parker absent. And this is our opportunity to hear from the commissioners. Does anybody have anything they'd like to report?
Well, I'd just like to suggest that when you're preparing the agenda for this next meeting, that you consider what we did to the minutes of this meeting as far as what is being presented to us by the consultants.
Well, because the next one is informational only as well.
Yeah.
Right, just
That's-
make sure the
It's a
agenda.
continuation of what we,
Description, I don't know if we could do that because it's a continued
Oh,
item.
that's, yeah.
But we can make
I don't
sure it's
know.
in the minutes next time. Thank you.
So I don't know what you got for correction, but I think they're probably right.
Maybe this is my chance to say we should work on that dark sky ordinance. Because I don't think I've said it lately.
You don't have anything else to do, right?
Does the planning director have a report for us?
I have nothing today. I do think we have an explanation about what they have on the desk before them
Yes.
in terms of the packet, but other than that, we've got really nothing else to report.
When will we be receiving the mail packet for next time? When will it be going out, I should say?
Friday.
Friday?
So we are to expect a relatively long meeting on our Wednesday, November 10th. And it will include the informational
Right.
item on the greenhouse gas
Yeah.
emissions and
2 other
the
items.
chips change and something else. Okay.
Yeah, so we'll hear the other 2 items beginning at 9 a.m. And then, if necessary, we'll
Come back.
probably break for lunch and then reconvene at what, 1 o'clock? 1 o'clock,
Okay.
For the greenhouse gas?
yes.
No, that's good.
Now, we do ask, they do have a short 2-hour window.
Yeah.
So I sent out a previous, or actually Julie sent an email asking if you could be so kind as to provide us with your edits, suggested typos, misspellings, grammatical errors, things like that, because I'm certain that you've got something.
I already sent it in before the last time.
If we could get that over to the COG so they could get that to the consulting team, that would certainly free up some time. And then if you have any big questions that, perhaps maybe we can alert them in advance so they could either, get the answers to your questions or at least include members of their consulting team that otherwise might not be participating in the meeting. That way we don't have to delay it any further.
That's great. And I know I don't need to receive duplicates of everything we received the last time we considered this.
Good to know.
assume.
Right, I don't need to
Nobody
receive
threw out their
duplicates either.
materials.
No.
So please, don't
Okay.
don't send duplicates.
Yeah. Then we will adjourn at 10 minutes to 10. Thank
Yay.
you, everybody.
Thank
For
you.
such an efficient meeting.